Well, hi everybody. We're gonna do take 2 of going live here on Miss Mustard Seeds Milk Paint. Let us know if you can hear us this time. I'm on my cell phone now as opposed to my webcam, so type any comments. Let us know how the sound goes if you're joining us again. Oh, good! Yay! The sound is good. Awesome. So this is take 2 of going live here on Miss Mustard Seeds Milk Paint. And my name is Jennifer Baker. I am the blogger here at Miss Mustard Seeds Milk Paint. I also take care of our newsletter. And behind the camera on the comment section, we have Chris Hardeen, who is our wonderful social media manager. She is fabulous. She takes care of Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the things. So she is here in the chat as we're going through our topic today, which I'll let you know what that is in a second. If you have any questions, we want you to type them out in the comment section, and then Chris will answer those for you. If there's any links that we need, like links to blog posts or things like that, Chris is your girl. She will take care of you. Okay. So here is the topic of conversation for today. Also, if you can hear us okay, just drop a line in the comments and tell us like, yeah, we can hear you, or try again. Let us know how it sounds. Let us know how it looks. Alrighty, Roo. So check this out. This is my little washstand. And this little guy is actually a piece that I'm working on for my actual house. Let's see, how's the sound? Okay, good. Yay! Okay, so this is a piece I'm working on for my house. This is called a washstand. It's a cute little chunker of a piece, and I am trying to paint it white, but I am running into a lot of issues. The primary issue being something that we call bleed through, and bleed through can be the bane of a furniture painter's existence. It can cause a lot of headaches. It can be super discouraging when it happens. So we wanted to tackle this issue with you. Oh, good. Yay, everybody can hear. Oh, that makes me so happy. Yay! So we're going to talk about what bleed through is, why it happens, like what causes it, how can you know if it's going to happen on your piece, what are some indicators that are going to be a tip-off that a piece is going to give you some problems. Once it happens, well, what does it look like? How do you know if you have it? We're also going to talk about how do you fix it when it happens, or how do you go about preventing it and getting ahead of the game before it happens. Then I'm going to give you some tips for painting furniture white, especially if you have a dark piece of furniture like this one and you're trying to paint it white. We have some suggestions to help you bridge that gap between the super dark finish that your piece already has and the bright white finish that you're aiming for. All right, so without further ado, let's talk about what bleed through is. Bleed through is essentially staining on your piece of furniture. So normally what you'll do is you'll go to your antique store and you'll see a super cute piece of furniture and you're like, oh, I really like that. I'm gonna take it home and I'm gonna milk paint it. And then you start milk painting and you see stains coming through your paint job. You see splotches, you see brown marks, you see tan marks, you see little pink spots showing up. And you're like, oh, I guess I just missed that with my paint. So I'm gonna go ahead and paint some more paint on. And then as that paint dries, it happens again. And you paint it again, and the stains keep coming through. No matter how many coats of paint you put on your piece, it just keeps coming through. That is called bleed through. Either during this post or afterwards, we have some pictures that we're going to show you of what bleed through actually looks like, because I'm getting it on my washstand. So let's talk about where it comes from. Like, why would a piece bleed in the first place? So let's take a look at my washstand. This is the original finish right here. It's very, very dark. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to take a drawer out and show you what's going on here. So I'll talk about this in a second, but let's look at this part right here. This washstand is made out of oak. Oak has a very strong grain pattern. See all these stripes and stuff? That is the natural grain of oak wood. And oak has a lot of like wood oils in it. They're called tannins. And the stain that is on this piece of furniture is very, very dark. You can see it right here. And if you were right on top of it, you would notice that it's got a little bit of red to it. So your first tip off is if you have a piece of furniture that has a very dark, reddish stain to it already, that's tip number one. That's little signal number one that you're probably going to get bleed through. Back in the early 1900s, there was a special dye, a dye lacquer stain that was used on furniture. It's called aniline dye. You see it on mahogany furniture from like the Depression era. That dye pretty much resists all paint. It really does not enjoy being painted white, especially. So if you find pieces that are that age, this piece definitely falls in that category. And I'll show you how I know. Furniture painters rejoice. Look, see that joinery right there? That scallopedness? That's called nap joinery or cove and pin. This was only used during a very specific period of time from 1870 until 1900. So that automatically dates this piece. So this would be right around that time that that dye was starting to be used. And that's tip number one of things to look out for when you're trying to avoid bleed through. So where does it come from? It comes from wood oils, and it comes from dyes or stains that can be on your furniture. It can also come from surface contaminants, like stuff that's already on your piece to begin with. That is why our first tip for preventing it is proper prep work. Do you like that alliteration there? Proper prep work. So we recommend that before you start working on a piece of furniture, that you clean it and you sand it. Now, before you have a heart attack and you're like, oh, I don't want to sand, it's not that bad. I'm going to show you. You can clean your piece using a couple different things. You can use a barely damp rag with a little bit of Dawn dish detergent on it. Not a lot, just like a boop, a little drop. And you can wipe your piece down. And that's really good for those pieces that are like, they just came from a barn and they're really, really dirty. That'll help get all that nastiness off. Another thing you can do is what I'm doing here. You can take a product called denatured alcohol. You can find it in the paint section of your local hardware store, and you can get a little spray bottle and put half denatured alcohol and then half water. So it's a 50-50 mix of denatured alcohol and water, and you can spray your piece down and wipe it off, which is what I'm gonna do. It smells like rubbing alcohol, but it's not quite the same formula as rubbing alcohol. Another good use for this is to clean your windows. So now you've got a homemade glass cleaner. To kill two birds with one stone, right? So you spray your piece down, you wipe it off, and then what you want to do is prep sand. Now, when we say prep sand, what we don't mean is that you get out your sander and you start going to town and you're creating dust in your workshop and you're making a big mess. This prep sanding stage is just to gently rough up the surface. So you can use 400 grit sandpaper, 320, 220. If you're going to try to avoid bleed through, I don't recommend going any more abrasive than 220. Try to stick around that because the more you scratch it up, the more you're going to release some of those tannins and those wood oils. And that is what we are trying to avoid. So I've got 400 grit sandpaper right here. And all you're going to do is just gently scuff the surface. And what you're going to notice is that a white powder will develop. And that's what you want. That white powder is the original finish that's starting to come off. That's the top coat that's already on your piece. And that's what you want. That tells you that you're scratching it up enough to sort of break that seal. And then what you can do is either use your household vacuum or you can just grab a little rag and wipe it off. Okay? So, first step to preventing bleed through is to prep your piece. Remove those surface contaminants, okay? What we're doing is we're trying to stack the odds in your favor that your piece will behave properly and you're not going to have these issues to deal with. Now, the second thing that you can do is you can prime your piece of furniture. Now, we recommend two different kinds of products to prime your piece. The first one is this stuff. This is by a company called Zinsser, and the product itself is called Seal Coat. Seal Coat. And I don't know if you can see that. I really don't want to tip it over. But it's like an amber liquid. And this is it's a sanding sealer. It's something that you paint on your piece to provide a barrier to keep the stains in and provide yourself a nice clean surface to put your paint on. It's basically de-waxed shellac. So if you go to your hardware store, there's shellac, which you can get, but that has wax in it. Normal shellac does. You don't want that kind. You want the kind that says 100% wax-free shellac. You want Seal Coat. And if that's backwards on your screen, I'm so sorry, but you want unwaxed or de-waxed shellac. The way that I like to put it on is with one of these little doodads. This is a foam brush, okay? You can get them from the craft store, you can get them from the paint aisle, in your hardware store, wherever you want to get it. You're gonna get some on your little applicator like this, and you can see it's very drippy, it's very thin. You wanna stir this up, okay? And you want to put on two very thin, very, very thin coats. So let's put one on. Here we go. And it is drippy, so you want to make sure that you pay attention to those drips. You don't want them falling on your carpet. You don't want them dripping off your piece and causing runs. But you basically do this. And you will feel it start to get tacky. There we go. Yeah. And once you start to feel that drag, that tension, that grippiness on the end of your applicator, stop brushing. Just let it be and let it dry. It takes roughly an hour to dry. And then what you'll do is you'll put a second coat on. And the reason why we're doing two coats is, one, we want to make sure that we have a thick enough barrier to keep those bleed through stains at bay. And the second reason is because you're human and you're probably going to miss a spot. So 2 coats of that Seal Coat de-waxed shellac. Okay, so for those taking notes, that's one product that you can use. Now, why would you want to use that? So if you wanted to paint this piece white and you wanted to maybe do the chippy look and have this wood poke through a little bit, this is a great product to help you do that. If you want to sand your piece and distress it a little bit and have that wood showing through, that's the product that you want to use to get that look. Now, sometimes that doesn't work, which is the case on my piece. This is not keeping the stains at bay. So you can opt for another kind of priming product, which is tinted white. And that's what's on this drawer. This is a white tinted primer. This is probably what you think of when you hear the word primer. There's all different kinds, all different brands. This one happens to be called Stain Blocker. It's made by a company called General Finishes. You can use Bin, B-I-N, Bin shellac-based primer. That's a wonderful product to keep stains in their place. So if this is before, this is after. See how it covers everything up beautifully? So this is another product that you can use to prime your piece and prevent bleed through. The thing is, if you sand this, like let's say you paint this in, I don't know, Schloss, which is one of our really, really, really gorgeous grays. If you sand the edges of your piece when you paint it, you're going to see this white underneath. If you don't want that, then use Seal Coat. Okay, so let's pretend that you have your 2 layers of Seal Coat on. We're going to put a little timeout on this product for a second. So let's pretend that you have 2 layers of Seal Coat on here and you're ready to start painting. And let's pretend you're like me and you want to paint your piece white. Good for you, because white is a beautiful look. So before you crack open the white paint, what you want to do is grab that piece of sandpaper that you used to scuff up your piece in the first place. This is my 400 grit sandpaper. You want to very, very gently give your piece a light sanding. And remember, we're sanding the Seal Coat now. We've got 2 layers of Seal Coat on her because we are trying to prevent bleed through. okay? And we're gently scuffing up that seal coat to give our milk paint something to hang on to. You're gonna grab a little rag, you're gonna wipe that off, and then you're gonna paint it in gray. Wait a minute, I thought we were painting that white. Well, that's one of our tricks for painting with white. What we suggest is we paint a layer of gray first. Now think about this for a second with me, okay? This is super dark, right? And white paint, like say our ironstone, which is right here. Ironstone right now is the brightest white that we have in our collection. Just wait until our new products launch. We have another white for you. We can't wait to show you. But for now, ironstone is the whitest white that we have in our line. If you're gonna paint something that is this dark with a paint that is this light, it is gonna take you forever and a day to get the kind of coverage that you're aiming for so that this is completely covered. So for example, this is the drawer from a washstand that I just finished. This whole process that I'm showing you, I did that on this piece, and I'll show you the piece at the end. So this has 2 layers of seal coat, it has a layer of gray, and then this is ironstone. So you want this, right? Well, if you try to go from this to this, it's gonna take a while. So we have a trick to help you cut that time. Ready? It is to take one of our beautiful grays. I happen to use Schloss because I like Schloss. I think it's really pretty. It's a really lovely shade of gray. So I have a little bit mixed up here. Just looking at our, oh yeah, Marion, that is a really good point. Marion uses Bin shellac-based primer, and it does have a smell because it's shellac-based. Any product that has shellac in it, you want to make sure you've got good ventilation because it is a little stinky. So that's a really good point, Marion. Thank you for bringing that up. Okay, so I like to use Schloss as my layer of gray. So what we're doing is we're trying to neutralize this surface. We're trying to help bridge the gap from a super dark surface to a super light surface. So you want to paint on 2 coats of any of our grays. You can use Trophy, you can use Shutter Gray, you can use Schloss like I'm using. You might even think about using Marzipan. I know it's not a gray, but it has enough of a warmth to it and it has really good coverage. And that might be another good color option for you. So I know I'm doing this a little hastily, but you get the idea, okay? So that's 1 layer of Schloss. You're gonna let that dry, and then you're gonna do a second coat of Schloss, and I'll show you why. So on this drawer, I have, P.S., this is my trick. If you're painting with the drawers in, we can explain why you might want to do that. I use a screwdriver to open and shut the drawers because if the hardware's off, how do you get it open? Haha, use a screwdriver. So stick your screwdriver in, open your drawer. Now this drawer has 1 coat of Schloss on it. Can you see how you can still sort of see through it? It's not quite like full coverage yet. This is why you want to, oh, Sherry, good question. I'll get to that. This is why you want to put on 2 coats of Schloss. So let me hold this here, and I'm going to paint this right in front of you. All right, ready? Watch the coverage. See? That is why you want to do 2 coats of gray. There's 1 coat. There's 2 coats. See how much better that coverage gets? Yeah, that's the good stuff. So you're going to paint on 2 coats of your chosen shade of gray, whatever it is, Shutter Gray, Schloss, Trophy, take your pick. You're going to let that dry. And when it's dry, you now have a beautiful neutral surface upon which you can apply your ironstone, Farmhouse white, linen, marzipan, mora, whatever color you want to use that's light. This is the technique that's going to help you bridge that gap. So, Sherry, you had a really good question. You said sometimes when I use bin shellac-based primer, or even maybe seal coat, I get crazing. Why does that happen? Crazing is like that crackle effect. The reason why you're getting that is because there's a reaction happening between your paint and the shellac. To prevent that, that is why we gently sand our primer, real gently. Not like, just a real light sanding. That's why we gently sand it, to avoid that problem. Now, if you want crackling, if you want some crazing to make your piece look really old and have a lot of character, skip that step. You don't have to do a light sanding. But if you want a full coverage look that does not have any crackling or crazing or chipping, like this piece, then you're going to want to take that extra step and just gently sand that shellac before you start painting. Does that make sense? Okay. So let's pretend that your Schloss is all dry. You put on 2 coats, or your Shutter Gray, or your Trophy. Whatever gray you put on, there's 2 coats of it on your piece, and you're ready to start jumping into white. Dun, dun, dun. Now what you want to do is go ahead and start painting your piece white. Now, I've already done this little section here, so I'm going to go ahead and put my layer of white on. And what you're going to notice is that your first coat of white is probably going to look very transparent. And when I say transparent, I mean see-through. Like, it's not going to look really full coverage. You're probably going to see some of the gray in there. And you're going to wonder, like, well, wait a minute, how come I can't see the white? White paint barely has any pigment in it, barely any color. It's white. It's pretty much just like a paint base. It's like when you go to the store to get wall paint, they crack open a can and they put it under the machine and all that dye comes in and then they shake it up. Well, before the dye goes in, guess what color the paint is? It's white. So white paint barely has any color in it whatsoever. So what you're trying to do is build up layers of a paint color that doesn't really have any pigments in it. So, oh, Marian, thank you so much. So Marian's German, and she said the word Schloss is pronounced like Ross, so Schloss with a quick O, and pronounce the S. Oh, you're the best. Thank you so much. I always wondered how you said that word. See, this is the beauty of going live and interacting with our audience, because they can tell us things like how to say stuff in German. So you're the best, Marian. Thank you so much. So when you go to paint your piece with white, it may take 2 coats or maybe even 3 coats. It depends on how heavy you put the paint on, how thick you mixed your paint, and how dark of a piece you're trying to paint. So for this piece, I would definitely need 3 coats. Remember, look at how dark this was when we first started. This is really dark, right? So on this piece that I'll show you in a second, this is like 2.5 coats. This is like 2 full coats. And then I took a 3rd coat and just touched up any areas that were still looking a little bit see-through. Specifically like on the corners, that's where I tend to be a little bit thin when I paint. So just look at your piece, evaluate it after 2 coats, and if you think you still want more coverage, put a 3rd on. This is all very common when you're painting furniture white. White is one of the most labor-intensive colors to paint with. It gives you an incredible finish, okay? It's beautiful, it's bright, it's gleaming, it's so fresh, so clean, but it's very labor-intensive. So we want to make sure that when you embark on your next furniture painting project that's going to be white and it's going over something that's very dark, we want you to be prepared. We want you to know that you may experience bleed through, either from a very strong wood grain pattern and oil's coming through, or a stain that's on your piece because of when it was made and what kind of a stain color it has on it already, or that there might be things on the surface that would come through like contaminants like oil, dirt, stuff like that. Old crayon from kids drawing on the side, that kind of stuff. So that is why we recommend that you prep clean and prep sand your piece before you even get started. I'm sort of recapping everything right now. Then you have your choice of what kind of primer you want to use. You can use the clear Seal Coat by Zinsser. That is good if you want to distress your piece after you're done and see the wood underneath. Or you can use a white tinted primer like I did over here. You have your choice of using Bin shellac-based primer, which, as Marion pointed out, is a little stinky. If you'd rather avoid that smell, you can use water-based white tinted primers like Stain Blocker by General Finishes, or you can use Bullseye or Kills or whatever works for you. Then you're going to paint on 2 coats of a gray, because remember, gray neutralizes your surface. It helps bridge the gap from a very, very, very dark surface to a very, very, very light white paint color. Gray is in the middle. We want you to get to the middle and then get to that bright white finish. Then, when everything's all done and your piece is all white and it looks gorgeous, I'm going to show you what it looks like. So you guys type out any questions that you have and enjoy the music while I get rid of this. And I'm going to show you a piece that I have already painted. This is really going in my house. This is my new nightstand. And I'm going to tilt the camera down so you can see it, because it is just too pretty to keep to myself. Let me put the drawer in, because this is what I was showing you earlier. Remember, type those questions out. Type those comments out. We love hearing from you. That's the whole point of going live. All right. Ready to come see it? It's so pretty. Here we go. Whee! This is what it looks like when you're all done. Nice, bright, beautiful, fresh, clean white. This white is ironstone. It is the brightest white that we have in the line right now. And what I did around the edges was I distressed a little bit. And I'm sorry for my shadows on the piece. I apologize. So there you go. That's kind of what it looks like when you're all done. Now, what kind of top coat should you put on over white? Well, what I don't recommend is that you use a water-based top coat. I would stay away from Tough Coat. It looks like this. There's a reason why. This is Tough Coat. This is our water-based sealer. It goes on, it dries hard. It's really great for heavy use surfaces, but think about it. You just painted this piece white. You rubbed away the edges, revealing that dark wood underneath. If you get it wet, you might reactivate those stains, those wood tannins, and you might bring the bleed through back to life. So I recommend that you stay away from this. Instead, opt for, let me get a wax. Opt for one of our beautiful, beautiful waxes. So we have furniture wax. We have beeswax. This is one of the old large containers. But use maybe one of our clear waxes, either furniture wax or beeswax. We have lavender scented furniture wax, or you can use white wax. Like, why not? White wax over white paint, it's a winner. So I recommend that you stick with a wax finish. If you use our hemp oil, which, let me see where my hemp oil is on my shelf. If you'd like to use that, just keep in mind, see, I use mine all the time. It's all drippy down the side. If you want to use our hemp oil, this is an oil that sinks deep into the surface and it does not dry hard on the top like an oil-based finish. This soaks into the surface and it protects from the inside out. But when you put hemp oil over your paint, it does darken it. So if you like this bright white finish, maybe even stay away from hemp oil because it will make this look just slightly darker than what it looks like when you're all done painting. So what I chose to do is I used beeswax. That's what I had on hand, and my piece looks gorgeous. And I actually put beeswax right here on the wooden top, which is right there. I sanded that down, put some beeswax on it, and after this live broadcast, I'm gonna rope my husband in to helping me carry it upstairs. So those are our tips and tricks for helping you avoid bleed through and understanding what it is, and to help you get a nice bright white finish. Now we have lots of questions here. Let me just scroll down for a second. So Marion says that she just had like a lot of trouble with ironstone. And let me tell you, Marion, if ironstone's not your bag, try Farmhouse White. Farmhouse White has really good coverage. It actually has the best coverage out of all of our whites. I actually had trouble with ironstone too, in terms of mixing it. I was finding that when I was mixing my batch of ironstone, I was getting a lot of like chunks. So you know what I did? I just squirted just a smidge of bonding agent in there, and look at how that really helped. So maybe that might help you. I'm not sure, but if ironstone's not your bag, try Farmhouse White. Next. So even Chris said that she might need like 4 coats of ironstone when she's using it. So, Eileen, yes, this is my favorite question ever. Why do you paint with the drawers in? That is so weird. Let me show you why. I got this trick from Marion, Miss Mustard Seed. Not the Marion that's tuning in. She's awesome too, though. You guys should see some of her work. She's amazing. Okay, so this piece, why am I painting with the drawers already in here? The reason why is because when you have a piece of furniture where the drawers like sit flush against the surface, like the drawers don't come over the cavity that they're sitting in, like they sit flush. Sometimes you don't know like how far to take the paint into the cavity. So for example, if I took this drawer out and I painted it somewhere else, I would paint this and just do the front and it would look great. But how would I know how far to take the paint in here? Because sometimes, especially on old furniture, when you put the drawers in, they don't always stop where they should. Sometimes they sit like inside the piece a little bit because either the blocks that were holding them there have gotten lost over time, whatever. So I like to paint with the drawers in so I know exactly how much paint to put around the edge. And then when it's all done, all you have to do, let's just pretend this drawer is all done being painted. Pop it out with your screwdriver, take some sandpaper, and then just go around the edge of your drawer and knock off that paint that maybe seeped around the edge. It's not going to be that much. It's very easy to sand it all off. And I usually don't put paint around this part of my drawers. I like to leave that wood, but it's totally up to you and whatever look you want to create. And that's the beauty of milk paint, is that you can make it do whatever you want it to do. So that's a great question. Thank you so much for asking that. Oh, and Chris has another good point. It does kind of save on space because then you don't have to have like 100 drawers sitting out in your workshop. Everything can just stay in the piece and you can kind of adjust when you're done. Let's see, what else? Do you need more than 1 coat of beeswax? It depends on how heavily your piece is going to get used. We do recommend 2 light coats of beeswax. For my piece over here, I put 2 on the top because it's my nightstand and I'm going to have my cell phone charger and, you know, drinks on coasters, of course. So I'm going to put 2 light coats on because I know myself and I'd rather have more protection than less. Robin, you're amazing. Paint stir sticks make great drawer stoppers. Cut off a 2-inch piece and staple it on with a staple gun. You are amazing. So here's what she's talking about. if you get a paint stir stick, see how thick they are? Just like kind of break off a section and you can put it, let me show you. Because I think, Robin, on this piece, I don't know if you guys can see this. There's one right there. Let me fly you in so you can see. That's what happened with this piece. There was no drawer stop, so somebody took a little piece of wood and put it right there. And her suggestion is to use a paint stir stick. So you can cut off a little piece of this, put it in here so that it looks like that. And then when you put your drawer in, ready? Dun, 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 dun. Whoop, look, it stops where it's supposed to. Robin, you're awesome. Thank you so much for that suggestion. And again, this is why we love going live on Facebook. And we have a Facebook page, a Facebook group that we would love you to join, because this is the kind of stuff that we talk about. We learn how to say words in German properly. We learn super fun painting tips and furniture tips like, hey, use paint stir sticks as drawer stoppers. Hey, here's how to prevent bleed through. So if you want to join that group, I know Chris can help you get connected into that group. We would love to have you join. This group is super active. It's growing all the time. It's super positive. Like, we love having you there, and we would love to have you join. So Chris can get you connected to that. We have lots of blog posts on our website that cover things like bleed through and distressing, and how do you mix your paint, and how do you put wax on, and how do I use Tough Coat, and like all the things, right? That is on our website. It's mmsmilkpaint.com. Again, Chris will get you connected by popping that into the comment section. You guys are amazing. Thank you so much for joining us. I'm Jennifer Baker. Chris Hardeen is on the other end of the computer. She manages our social media. She's amazing. I take care of our blog and our email marketing, like our newsletter. So we're so glad that you joined us. Please connect with us more in our Facebook group, and we will see you next time when we go live here on Facebook. You guys have a great Thursday. We'll see you later. Bye-bye.